So hi, I'm Stan Skafidis. I'm a professor of nanoelectronics here at the University of Melbourne and working very closely with my colleagues at the Melbourne Brain Centre on the Centurion program, and specifically working towards developing next generation sensor technology which will allow for the better, more appropriate, faster, more efficient means of managing and treating patients with neurological or neuropsychiatric disorders. Now, the technology that I'm focused and my team is focused on, working closely with the neurology colleagues, is the point of care type of devices, and that spans two major types of devices or classes of devices. There are the wearables, which are devices which are able to measure, monitor, and determine what's actually happening with the patient in real time, second by second, for every second they're working that device. And that provides a high fidelity data that is available to the clinician in order to better understand what is happening with the patient, rather than taking measurements at specific times where certain pathologies or certain conditions may be missed. Now, the next part of our work is focused on various kinds of point-of-care types of devices. And these point-of-care type of devices are colloquially known as lab-on-a-chip type devices. And essentially, these lab-on-a-chip type devices, what they do is they enable a patient to be able to make measurements at their home efficiently, effectively, non-invasively. So essentially what these devices allow is the patient to be part of their own management, part of their own way of capturing data, providing that data to the clinician for their better management. Now, some of the examples include systems which we are developing in order to be able to circulate metabolites like lactate or other chemicals called pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are important in pathologies like epilepsy or multiple sclerosis. And essentially, some of the devices that we've developed allows the patient in order to be able to detect these metabolites, including others which I haven't mentioned, by simply taking a little saliva sample. Essentially what happens is the patient taps this sensor onto their tongue, and a predetermined amount of saliva is extracted, and that sample of saliva is analysed in this little device there and then, and essentially what it does is it does a complex laboratory analysis for the patient in their home, wherever their home may be, including and especially important for people in outback Australia. So once this analysis, this complex laboratory analysis, is undertaken on on devices which cost a few cents and are completely disposable, that information is then, or the laboratory analysis is then transferred via Bluetooth to a PC, which is then where that information is then transferred into a bioinformatics system, which then captures and analyzes that data. And specifically what I'm talking there is about the NeuroBase platform. The NeuroBase platform, which my colleague Karen Despoor, who I believe has already talked about or will be talking about, does complex analytics in order to be able to determine, present, better understand complex patterns in the data and in these laboratory tests, which can be now done in a much more easier, cost-effective, more timely manner. Now, some of this same technology is going to be modified to allow one in order to be able to do very complex blood tests at the point of care, points of bedside, or even in the patient's home. And essentially, applications there would be to, working with, applications there will be to determine amounts of circulating DNA, which is important in being able to determine and detect tumor load in a patient. And that will have, specific or significant benefits to patients that are suffering various brain tumors or neurological tumors, because it means that they can actually be monitoring how well their treatment is how effective their treatment is, and to be able to do it in the comfort of their own home and most importantly, to be able to do it and be able to track progress of their treatment between visits to their neurosurgeon or neurologist, and also between MRI measurements. And this is going to be a huge advance. It will allow the clinicians to get a better understanding of patient prognosis, patient outcome, how they're responding to treatment, and also it will allow, importantly, the patients to know how they're tracking, how their treatment's tracking, and once they start seeing differences, they can actually better interact, provide higher quality, more in-depth information to their clinician so that they can also treat them more appropriately and more effectively. We've already had a lot of success with this platform, and you'll hear more about that from my colleague Professor Patrick Wan, where we've shown that we've been able to do HLA typing for patients with epilepsy using this platform, and we're able to do this point of care cost effectively with minimal discomfort and time to the patient. And through the Centurion program, we hope to be able to develop, further advance the platform for other disorders, including stroke, epilepsy, MS, and numerous other interesting applications.